Talking About My Generation, the podcast with Lee Scriven and Del Bromham.
Hello and welcome to Talking About My Generation. Another edition, another hour or whatever long we're going to chat. Special guest with us tonight, someone who is getting his hands dirty, as we should say. He's out there at the moment putting gigs on 24/7, 6-7 days a week, sometimes 2 gigs a day, sometimes even 3 gigs a day. Our beloved venue, Crawford Arms in Wolverton, a very famous venue in this area. So let me introduce you to Paul Rivers.
Yay.
Hello, Paul.
Hello,
and Del.
son.
Obviously, Del with me,
Yeah.
Del Bromham. Del, what have you been up to at the weekend? You've been playing Wembley, flying over to America or anything? What have you been doing?
No, I've had a quiet weekend actually this
Lovely.
time, but in preparation for the tour we've got coming up.
Yeah.
And also we got a new live album.
I was just going to say, how's the live album done?
Yeah, it's all right. It's just about to be pressed up as we speak.
Let's
Yeah.
butt in there. Live albums quickly, because you say I have my script. What's your favourite live album, Del?
Well, it would be a cross between either Get Your Yah-Yahs Out,
Yeah.
the Stones, or Frampton Comes Alive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Paul's not there. Paul's not there.
It was my era, you see. That's the thing.
That was
It was my era.
Paul, come on in.
Oh well, I know. Mine.
Rebalance.
Yeah, mine. If You Want Blood, AC/DC,
Yeah.
and It's Alive, Ramones.
Okay. I'm going to go with Live at Leeds, The Who, which I think set the tone for all great live albums.
I mean, I really like the Thin Lizzy one, but wasn't that secretly touched up in the studio?
Yes.
Most of it
let's
was.
be
They only
honest.
kept the drums.
I think a few of them were.
Yeah.
put in.
I know
think-
that one was really tough.
I think I might have read John Entwistle drops a few bass lines in,
Yeah.
and I don't think you could replicate Keith. I don't think Keith Moon could have gone in and done Keith Moon again. That would have been impossible.
Yeah.
And then the other one, which I'm going to talk about actually later on, but I'll mention it now because we do a little bit regular listeners know moment in time this sort of week that we're recording it. Stupidity, Dr. Feelgood, #1 album, 1976, and I'll be honest, it stood the test of time. It's a good album. It's a great little album where you can sort of stick your headphones on and perhaps people don't do that now. Get 20 Embassy out and a couple of cans of beer, and you can pretend you're at Dingwall's, or something. That's just great.
I love them, mate. Like if you were like, I'm jumping ahead now, but if you were to say like, oh, what legendary bands would you have loved to have seen? Which I might have ruined your questions there.
You can
I would love to have seen Dr. Feelgood on
In
the
their
first
prime.
couple of records with Wilco.
Well, I did.
in them.
I did. That was my inspirational
Yeah, I
moment,
would
which we're
love-
going to come to. So let's come to that. The quick fire questions. Looks like Paul's done his own work.
Sorry.
He knows what's coming. First record bought, Paul.
Of my own money, because obviously I'm like super young.
You are compared to me and Del.
It was. I can tell you what it was. It was 1983. I went to Zodiac Records in Stoney. I saved up my 2s and 1s, and I bought Bark at the Moon by Ozzy Osbourne on cassette because I couldn't afford. I didn't have a CD. I don't think there were CDs there. And I brought White Wedding, the 7-inch single by Billy Idol. And they were my what I actually bought myself.
I love Billy Idol.
And I even walked to the shop on my own. I wouldn't even let my parents. Like I was like, well, I'm buying them. So I've got to walk to Stoney and buy them and make it official.
Yeah.
And I've still got the cassette. I've still got the Bark of the Moon cassette.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Not the most impressionable band you've seen, or whatever. What was the first gig you saw?
The first actual gig I saw, like big bands, I went straight in at the deep end. I went to the Monsters of Rock Festival in 1988 because Guns N' Roses were playing, Iron Maiden, and Steve Vai was in David Lee Roth, and I wanted to see Steve. But it was the one where a couple of people died. The stage collapsed because I think they oversold it for Guns N' Roses. And obviously, like you said, back before internet and stuff, my mum and dad were going insane because I was like 15, 16. It was 1988, and I went straight in at the biggest oversold thing going, and like you couldn't. It was just absolute chaos. And when I got back, my parents were like in tears, and it was incredible.
Yeah,
because it was just like legends.
Yeah, I had a similar experience. But
Yeah.
the first band I saw were the Who at Charlton.
Yeah.
And I hadn't seen anybody. I played with my dad bongos in a band.
Yeah.
The old working men's clubs and that. But to actually go and see a band, it was Who. So
Yeah.
most inspirational musical moment, i.e. a band or someone who changed your life? Or was it a moment going, I want to be in the music industry, this is it, I want to be part of this?
Like I said, speaking to you fellas before, I think the two bands that I was like, I think I'm going to like guitar music. And I don't know about you guys, but I was young. I was like 7, 8 years old. And it was hearing Since You've Been Gone by Rainbow.
Yeah.
And that album, and All Night Long, wasn't it, the other song?
Yeah.
And then Thin Lizzy. I saw Thin Lizzy on Top of the Pops, so it would have been Killer on the Loose. You know that because I think Gary Moore played on that album.
Yeah.
That is it Rose? No, I can't remember the name of the album.
Yeah.
It's the one from '79.
Rose.
Yeah, Black Rose. Yeah.
So a collection, really.
Yeah, so that, and then to get into live music, I went to this. We all used to go and see all the kind of thrashy bands and stuff. I wasn't just into that. I was into everything. I just devoured everything. But we went to see this band Lawnmower Death, and they were like a funny band that done this punky metal stuff and got everyone moshing. And I dived into the mosh pit, and they done one of them.
Is this at the Pitz?
Yeah, the Pitz.
Yeah.
There was like a circle thing where they're all running around, and the whole crowd was running around, and I jumped in the middle of it to get a breather. And so I had like 400 or 500 kids running around me and the band on stage, and I still remember going, I think I want to do this. I think I want to do live music and give people how much it meant to me.
There it is.
And that was it. And I know it's not like Metallica or the Who, but it was just this gig where it was all of these youngsters going absolutely bananas, having the time of their lives. And I thought, well, this has changed my life. If I can do this for other people, that would be the greatest thing ever.
And you did. We're going to come on to that. Just for the listeners who are not too well, but Paul is a promoter, and he's been a promoter at the Pitz, the famous Pitz, and a lot of other venues as well, and been part of Britain's music industry at the lower level. And that's not me being degrading. It's an really important level. It's a level I've worked at as well. They'll rose to the top.
It's the grassroots, mate. It's
the grassroots. You meet great people. You meet great characters. We're going to come on to that. We're going to do our little questions first. Best gig you've ever seen?
Oh my God, I've seen thousands of bands.
Is there one that just stands out?
Do you know what? I'm struggling.
They all just reach a level that...
Yeah, because I like it for different things. Like, do you remember that in the 80s there was this kind of proggy alternative American band called King's X?
Oh, I love them.
Yeah. I saw King's X at the Pitz in 1990 or 91.
Yeah.
And I remember being in the crowd. I didn't like their third album because they went a bit too spiritual on it, but the first two records were amazing. But it was the first time I saw a band that was so locked in live, they were a three-piece, that they all had their eyes shut. So they got into like a jam, and they were just, and I remember watching it thinking, I've never seen this before. They've got their eyes shut and they're still playing like absolutely tight in the pocket. And I just remember being so blown away seeing a band so absolutely locked in, and I'd never seen that before, because all of the punky bands and heavier bands is all about the energy.
Yeah, one of the best live bands I've ever seen, actually.
Yeah.
Three-piece, great.
I've never seen it before. It's the first time I'd ever seen a band that was just, they all had their eyes shut and they just went into this jam, and it just, as I said, still today I remember watching that thinking, oh my God, that actually, you read about it, but I've never seen it, and now I've seen it, and it completely blew me away.
Brilliant. Okay.
I saw him in London. I can remember leaning against the wall and feel Doug Pinnock's bass vibrating at my spine.
Yeah,
the first two records.
Yeah,
because
the
the
first
third
two.
one, Faith, Hope and Love, they in the age of grunge, they decided to make a Christian album, and it pretty much ruined their career.
I got a great idea, guys.
yeah. You know what I mean? Like when Nirvana and stuff are pouring out there at like Heart and Souls, and it's the rawest thing, and all their songs are just like, you know what I mean? You just gotta believe. You know what I mean? And literally, they went from being like, they could have been like the Chili Peppers, couldn't they? Or Faith No More, like the big American alternative bands, and they put this record out, and
I suppose in moments like that, you have to applaud the originality, because sometimes it could be like they could still be on like some massive documentary again. Yeah, well, it's the greatest idea I ever had. It could have worked. It could have worked.
Yeah.
They could have become this massive Christian rock band or whatever, but it didn't. So
in the time of like the rawest music and the most heartfelt music, like after the sort of 80s glam and excess, you had all these super like internal introspective songwriters, and you had like Fast Car and all these super, and then they made this album and they never recovered, and they kept him in the clubs.
Well, that might be the next question. That might be the moment in rock you want to go back and see, when he came into the dressing room or the rehearsal room and said, I've got this idea for a new album. But there's what I've put here. One rock star you could bring back. So we both went for Stevie Marriott because we felt he wasn't aware how much he was loved when he sadly left the building.
Phil Lynott.
Yeah.
Phil Lynott.
That one's come up as well.
Yeah.
Phil Lynott. Like, I don't even know what it was, because like I was never a big Zeppelin fan. I found Robert Plant's wailing just way too much. It was like, dude, just please shut up and just let the music play. But then when I heard Phil Lynott and he was telling these songs about going out with the gang in it, and they were very sort of narrative, and he was my first hero. And he had his hair sort of pulled down over his eye and his like pirate earring, and I think he died not knowing how much his music meant to people, because they never got up there, did they?
Totally agree with you.
You know what I mean? And he died, I think, quite in a sad circumstances. But like, I'm still talking about his music now, and I was like 7, 8 years old, and I saw him on Top of the Pops, and I saw him play, and I was like, right, this guitar music for me.
Yeah, off of camera, if you like. We were talking about songwriters, and he was a great underrated songwriter.
Yeah, and his lyrics as well, like lyrically, weren't he?
He could go from. We've had this conversation before. He could go from a big rock guitar classic to Sarah.
Yeah, which
you
is.
know, songwriting,
a beautiful song, and I don't use that word a lot. You know what I mean? But he's my man. Yeah. He was my first like.
Well, it's probably similar to what me and Dan are saying about Steve Marriott. We just feel that, now he is loved and he's really respected, but he probably didn't know how much he was.
Yeah.
I think you think, I haven't had a hit for 2 years, or my tour's not doing no one loves me anymore. No, they do, mate. They do.
Yeah, because I always got the vibe with Thin Lizzy that they were just gutted, that they just had so much bad luck that they never got up there with an AC/DC or a Sabbath.
They could have, though, couldn't they?
Yeah, and across the board as well, like, I know people are real indie heads but love Thin Lizzy because there's something about the storytelling, and it's such a like an everyman.
And Del it again. I think it's worth saying again that Del, you auditioned for him in a period, didn't you?
I nearly joined.
That must have been great. I mean, just to have that memory,
was that, mate?
Well, I was. It's a long story, but I was. I'd known Gary Moore over the years.
Yeah.
And when Gary left in '78, I got a call from them. Come down because I knew the managers and that. And when the day I went down, I went to Elstree Studios and rehearsed with them.
Really?
And I always remember Phil didn't really want to play, and he was obviously under the influence.
Yeah.
And
of Ribena.
And I said, can we play some of your songs, and you can see what I'm going to do. Well, I didn't actually know which guitar harmony I was going to play, so I learnt both.
Really?
Wow.
And I did that, and I can always remember his last words to me were, "Well, Del, you can sure play that fucking thing."
Yeah.
I said, "Thank you very much." And I was told I was on the. It was down to me and another they were going to use, and then I got a phone call saying, we won't be able to get back to you for about another 6 weeks because we had a Japanese tour come in, and Dave Flett is sharing a house with Scott Gorham, and Dave Flett was playing guitar with Manfred at the time.
Right, okay.
So they've learnt all the stuff. And this come up in another one of our podcasts, actually. I was quite surprised because when they came back, they got Midure
that's
to
right.
play, which was really odd.
That was bizarre, wasn't it?
So I still had to wait. And then what actually happened was the other guitarist who played after I played on my audition was Snowy White.
Yeah, and I put Snowy White on in my time running the Pitz because I love that song he did in the early 80s. And he played with Pink Floyd as well, didn't he?
That's right, yeah.
But because he was in Thin Lizzy, he'd done the Renegades album.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't care if there's 5 people here. So I didn't put him on because he was in Pink Floyd. I put him on because he played with Thin Lizzy. And same with Eric Bell.
Yeah.
I put Eric Bell band on about 4 or 5 times.
Just because you love Thin Lizzy?
Yeah, because I was just
why
like,
not?
Yeah,
Why not?
you know, so you could do that back in the day.
Yeah, you could.
I've done some, I put on a punk band, a New York punk band, and sold it out actually, which I was surprised about, called Leftover Crack. And I only put them on because I knew our Pitz ad went next to the Christ on the Cornerstone Church ad in the Citizen. So I thought, I just love the idea of having like Christ on the Cornerstone Church and then Leftover Crack.
And it works.
Yeah.
Great
And they were on crack.
Right, another one for you. What moment in rock music's history, i.e. Woodstock, we mentioned Beatles doing Hey Jude on the David Frost show, or it might be Lizzy here. What time, is there a moment in rock history that you're thinking, wow, I wish I'd been there?
Yeah, I think it took, am I allowed to?
Yeah, go ahead, sir.
I think I would love to have seen AC/DC on the Let There Be Rock Power Rage. That's 77, 78, when to me they were their greatest albums. And I remember talking to a few older rockers that saw them, and they said they out-punked the punks, out-rocked the rockers.
Didn't they do a week, 2 weeks at the Marquee or something when they came over?
Like they were so live, like I would love to have seen that, and I would really have loved to have gone to that the punk festival that the Clash did, the anti-race one. The anti-Nazi, you remember it was about 78, 79.
That's an outside one.
Yeah,
I know the one you mean. Stranglers played.
Anti-Nazi League, wasn't it? Yeah. Remember they'd done the race. I would have loved to have been that. Stranglers, I think Sham 69. I would love to have been just there.
Yeah, it was a legendary gig, you're right.
To show my support.
Yeah,
and
we're all concerned, the bands and what they were standing for.
Yeah.
Got something about AC/DC. I remember going to the week it came out, Song Remains the Same, cinema in Leicester Square, and you're talking cinemas. You're talking a 1,500 seater cinema, and like everybody, I mean, there was no punk then. I think Feelgood's I don't think I'd even might have discovered Feelgood by then. But anyway, Led Zeppelin still Led Zeppelin, and you wanted to see it. And took the wife, as she was then, and my girlfriend then, and we went and saw it. Got a great seat. And the film is quite hard work in it, let's be honest. It's not the greatest rock music film, even though there's some absolute stunning performances here. I just thought it was too long. But in the middle, and this proves how great AC/DC's management was. And this is the reason I knew about the Marquee.
Yeah.
They had an interval. It was so long, the film had an interval. But before the interval, there was a 2-minute promo for AC/DC playing at the Marquee. So you've had, and I'm being kind to Led Zeppelin, it was getting boring, let's be honest. The songs were a bit slow, and then all of a sudden, and we're talking pre-punk here, I can remember it like yesterday, and there's this band with this school kid, first time I'd ever seen him, and you could just feel the whole room going, what? That? I thought it was one of the greatest pieces of marketing, and I think the NME picked it up on it, and everyone picked up on it, and that's when I first knew. And so we're talking 75. They did take their time, but that's a good shout. As in, and you had a second one. What was the second one?
So AC/DC, like I said, that period, sort of Let There Be Rock, Power Rage. By the time
you said the Clash.
Yeah, by the time Highway to Hell had come along, they'd already started working with that big producer and polished up the sound. I liked them just before that. And then the Clash, the anti-Nazi.
Old age, Paul.
No, that's fine. because it's such a legendary British thing, isn't it? And,
that is a gig, yeah.
And you guys know the politics of the late 70s and all the National Front and all the nastiness.
Yeah, sadly,
and then they done that free.
Still with us, yeah.
Yeah, that free gig in London, and 80,000 people. You know what I mean? And to show your support, very important.
It was a good gig. It was a good gig. Okay, moments in time. One for me, I suppose, a bit personal. Killing Joke's debut album came out 1980 in October.
That album.
And it was a bit weird for me because it was my best mate at school who had been thrashing around doing Beatles and Who covers, and then suddenly he comes out with one. Which one? Geordie.
Oh, the guitarist.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah. That's what I was at school with. Yeah, and like one of my best mates, until he sadly passed away. And then he comes out. I mean, it's bad enough that he was like, he was in a band with something I wanted to do and was becoming famous, but then he actually delivered one of the, my favourite albums and probably one of the most influential albums for a long time. I know Dave Grohl, ended up producing.
Well, he's
Killing
another
Joke.
guy, isn't he?
Yeah.
George is another guy that's passed, not realising that literally every band, probably today, kind of claims to be post-punk, your Fontaines, your Idols. Those guitarists lifted his sound.
Yeah.
That kind of downstroke, repetitive sound that he did, he's all over like the post-punky bands today.
Did you at that time, Del? Did you ever listen to Killing Joke?
As you're talking there, my recollection was at the time that me being a guitarist, when I heard Killing Joke, the thing that stood out about Killing Joke above all the others was the guitar playing.
Yeah.
And actually, just around the same, Steve Jones, funnily enough.
Yeah.
He was good on the guitar, but just something about Geordie's sound.
Yeah. I mean, the thing I've got to say about Geordie, and I'm being honest here because I know him and I went to school with him and I played in bands with him. He wasn't a great guitarist. He's not in your league, Del.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's the sound. It's the sound.
So he knew his limitations. He knew he was never going to do 3-minute guitar solo like Jeff Beck. He couldn't do that. But what he really studied, I can remember. We used to, it sounds great, he stayed around my house and used to have a little record player in the bedroom, and we used to put Live at Leeds on, and it's Sparks. Remember the track Sparks? And there's a bit in Sparks that is so Killing Joke, it's frightening. But he used to just keep picking up the needle and go, listen to that chord, and listen. So he was studying the people, and he loved Jimmy Page, and he was all into all different guitarists. It wasn't just the Who, and when I heard that album the first time, I just thought, oh yeah. It's like, that's Geordie, because it's all chords. It's all about the chords and the timing of the chords. And I think, as some great bass players do, he left room for the whole sound.
Well, it's also the mark of a good musician in that you listen to the unit you're playing with.
Yeah.
You don't showboat.
Yeah.
You had to, and actually doing what is the necessity is quite often what is the thing, the standout thing. You don't necessarily mean to do it.
Yeah.
But it's
a remarkable band, because I know the story well from Geordie, as in he heard, I think he saw a Melody Maker ad, which most people did, and then he went, and I think he tried ringing Jazz. It was Jazz Coleman, the lead singer of Killing Joke, to say, because he just wanted to be in a band. Geordie wanted to be in a band, and he had his standards. He wouldn't have been in a pop band, but he'd have played in any rock band, I think, or a post-punk band. But he just saw the advert, liked what it said, and he sort of rang him a couple of times, and then he never got an answer. So he found out, I don't know how he found out the number of where he lived. He only knocked on his door, and then sort of basically Jess Goldman was not impressed. Like, he would do, he's just bloody idiot, and sort of, I'll get back to you, And I think they had an argument about something. I think he asked him who his favourite guitarist, who's your favourite guitarist, and he said Sal Clemenson goes to Saab. And Jazz Coleman thought that was hilarious, he's a clown and he's hopeless, and Geordie stood his ground, going, no, he's amazing. So Geordie's thinking, that's that blown. And Geordie told me, this is God's honest truth, he said he'd packed his bags, he'd literally locked his guitar case, and he was living in a block of flats, but only they had one of them phone boxes at the end of the corridor. No one had a phone, so you just had to queue up and use the phone. And he said he'd been living there for 6 months trying to be a rock star. That's what he went to. He went to answer Melody Maker ads and get in at London and be a rock star. And he's literally got his bags, he's packed, he's leaving, the phone rang. He said, I've never answered that phone in my life. Picks it up. Who is it? Jazz Coleman. And he said, oh yeah, we like you. Oh, well, actually, I've got you. I want you to come. But he'd still never heard him play. And he basically said, you're in the band. He didn't say come and audition. He said, actually, I think I really like a song about it, blah, blah, blah. And Jazz Coleman said, and there's a great article, it's on Facebook, about this period, where he says, like, he says, when he got in the rehearsal, I'm thinking, Christ, I hope this guy's all right. You know, he's never heard him play. And he said he just turned up, I think he had a Fender Twin Reverb. He may have. I might be wrong at that time, and then he changed his amps to... And chemistry, bang.
Well, I always wondered, obviously we can never find out why. I found it very unusual for a band like that. The guitar he used, I don't know if it's an ES335, but it's a jazz guitar.
Jazz guitar.
Not a country Gretsch, it was a jazz guitar. It wasn't what you would expect.
No, I think when he first started he was using an SG. I think that album might have been an SG, but he may have brought it in. But yeah, then he made it his trademark, didn't he?
Yeah.
It may have been, didn't Yes, the guitarist, Yes, not Chris Squire, you'd know the Yes guitar. Didn't he use a jazz?
Who?
Gibson, Yes guitarist.
Oh, Steve Howe, yeah, he used I think
Geordie may have been influenced by that.
Oh, well, okay, yeah.
But I say, people think, he must have only listened to Sex. I mean, absolutely. I remember the day the Sex Pistols split up, he rang me up. He said, it's the end of the world and all that. And I was going, no, it's perfect. It's the perfect ending, Geordie. It's brilliant. I didn't want them to go on because they were so good, at what they stood for. But that's how close we were. But I think, knowing that he liked Yes and a lot of other guitars, I got a feeling that might have been it.
It makes sense.
But I know he was he loved it. He did collect a lot of guitars. I don't think he was just struck out it became his trademark, didn't it? So yeah, well, I miss my old mate. But as we're just talking, he left his mark. And I was really chuffed when Mojo did a 2-page spread, like you were saying, Paul. I didn't realise, and I don't think Geordie realised how influential he was.
100% influential. Him and who was the fella that played guitar in Gang of Four?
Oh God, I don't know. I don't know his name, but I know mine.
No.
Yeah. Do you know Gang of Four?
Kirk, was it Kirk?
Yeah.
Kirk?
Those two guys, like I said, if you listen to all of the bands now that are hip now,
chainsaw, it. Like a chainsaw that just cuts through.
Yeah, you can hear them two guys. So your mate Geordie, 100%, because the whole for about 10 years, this whole with Idols and Six Music, this whole post-punk explosion happened again, didn't it?
Yeah.
Which was amazing because it brought everyone back to guitar music and going to see live bands. But you listen to those bands, and Geordie his sound is all over those bands.
There you go, Geordie. I hope you're listening. Right, coming on with my little moments of the week. U2 celebrated their first #1 with Desire this month. I remember going to the Moonlight Club with Fictitious, punk band in the 80s, and I always remember going to the Moonlight. You played there many a time, haven't you, Del? Moonlight Club. Is it the Moonlight Club in where's the Moonlight?
In Hampstead.
Yeah.
The country club.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah. I remember going there the night after U2 had made their London debut, and all the sound engineers, and they kept them up all night. So they were so chuffed to be in London. And of course, they'd rung people, and rung all their mates, and rung families, and it was packed. And they played their set about 3 times. But the sound engineer was sitting there looking like deaf while we were trying to do this. I go, what's up, mate? And then he told me that story. I always remember that. Here's one for us. 8th of October. Jimi Hendrix, Arthur Brown, and John's Children, which I think was Mark Bolan's.
It was Mark Bolan was in John's Children.
At the Seville Theatre. But I've got to talk about Arthur Brown because I went to Paul at Crawford Arms, and I'll be honest, we're nearly away through the year, and I think it's still my favourite live moment of this year that's seen.
Really?
Because I was just knocked out. I told Del, knocked out by the band. What was he like to work with?
Really chilled, really he's just like Gandalf, because he was like he's like, because he's like 82 or something like that, 83.
But Paul, I saw his voice.
Yeah, and he sat on the chair while the band was sound checking, and he just sat there and just saying hello to everyone that walked past him, like a man that had just been there, done everything, seen everything, and he would just sit there and go, you're just not going to impress me. I've just done it all. And he was like that, and he just had this kind of light, and he had his beard like slightly dyed purple, and he just sat there and just let the world go past. I think we made him a cup of tea or something like that, and then he just went upstairs and then came down and done it. But I was expecting it to be a bit of a novelty fest. Everyone pay their money to listen to him do Fire 7 times. But it wasn't. There was actually loads of prog heads there who knew all of the little deep cuts, because he still releases records, doesn't he? And he's become embraced by the kind of the modern day progressive rock world.
Have you seen him recently, Del? Arthur Brown?
No, I haven't. No,
I'll tell you what. If he comes again, I'll come and get you.
Yeah,
He
he didn't quite have the fire, because I don't think you're allowed that health and safety. It was more like felt. You know?
But did you see him in
on our first podcast we did?
Yeah.
Lee was asking me these questions, and I was 15, and that's the first proper rock gig that I went to was Arthur Brown. I was 15.
I was when we because when we booked him. Did we book him or was it private hire? I can't remember.
I think he chose the Crawford. Yeah, from what I could make out, he specifically wanted to come to the Crawford.
Yeah. And we were like. And there was all these jokes going around with the agents and stuff, sort of going, you've booked him, let's hope he makes it. And we're like, oh, well, all right. You know what I mean? And it was just like that. And he got up and he done, an hour and a half set. His band rocked because they're incredible musicians. And he just done all of these, like, obscure prog songs. And the crowd loved him. And also, it was one of those gigs where at the end of the night, almost everyone there bought an album or a t-shirt, or he had a queue, like they just wanted to support him. So it was
it's great. It's funny, we were talking about Killing Joke, and I was with Sammy Jones. Sammy Jones was there as well, the brilliant journalist Sammy Jones, and I shouted into Sammy Jones' ears because I said, this is more Killing Joke than Killing Joke, like the band. It was really driven. That's what I'm saying. Never mind that his antic. I mean, it was fascinating to watch, because what I liked about, as you remember, Paul, it was instead of coming off stage and going into a dressing room to put, because he was all about theatrical and changing. It was robes, really. It wasn't club robes. He just built a dressing room on the stage. So it's like one of them sort of hospital curtain things where he go behind and yell bang, and about the bang, I go thrashing bang, like Hammond, whatever Hammond sound with like Killing Joke sound to give a listener that idea, and then he'd come back out and I just thought, this is just fantastic. So fair play to the old Crawford for putting that on. Another couple of ones, another quick one here. 11th of October, the Beatles made their first appearance in the single chart, Love Me Do. Didn't work out for them really, did it? Number 4, what a disappointment. The record company, if it had been today, would have dropped to them and said, no, it's okay guys, you only got to number 4, we didn't get enough hits.
They would put them with a songwriter, wouldn't they?
We've got a songwriter lined up for you. But we're going to come on to that.
John
but
Lennon,
one I do want to talk about, 7th of October 1970, but it's more about Ozzy Osbourne's documentary this week, but just to prove what a brilliant legacy they had, number 1 in the UK chart with a second album, Paranoid, in 1970, but we all know about Paranoid, what a brilliant album. And
I think that's probably one of my favourite Sabbath albums, because it's just got all the hits on it, hasn't it?
Yeah.
And it sounds incredible as well.
That second album can be important to sort of reaffirm.
I would say that's probably, of the Ozzy era Sabbath, that's probably my favourite album, because it's just got the groove as well.
It just sounds raw, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And it didn't sound like any other band at the time.
Yeah. Really? I was just going to ask you, because what I love about him, I mean, I was alive, don't get me wrong, I wasn't. I wasn't going out and buying records, and I was just listening to what my dad bought and my brother brought home. But again, one of them game-changing albums, all right, Dale, where you put it on and sonically, there's like, oh, hang on, what's going on here? Which we've spoken about before, I think post-90s, that doesn't tend to happen anymore.
Well, I'm sorry to sound like an old fart, but that's just, when my band's first album came out, it was 1970, and all the bands that were around at the time, and I'm just thinking about all the places we used to play at. You'd have Black Sabbath, had my band Stray one week, you'd have Black Sabbath, Uriah Heep, the early Quo even, all these bands were playing. But the one thing about them was we as well, we all had our own identity.
Yeah.
Nobody sounded like anybody else. I mean, there's a lot of bands around now that they kind of mesh into one.
The reason for that is there's no Pro Tools. Am I wrong? I mean, everything's become computerised. I think,
you had to make
David
sound
Bowie's
yourself.
Let's Dance album, it all started to become very machine-like. It's that long ago. It hasn't just happened. But, Denmark studios would have sounded completely different to Bordeaux, to Abbey Road studio. Everything had a different sound anyway.
Yeah.
And then bands tend to use different amps and different instruments.
You had to create the sound, because the sound
the machine
couldn't be
didn't.
created for you by a machine.
Yeah, and I think that's why there's such a difference sonically in it. But anyway, talk about Ozzy. The documentary, which is, apologise, I can't remember the actual name of the documentary, but it was the documentary sort of marking Ozzy Osbourne coming back. The Osbournes, really. It was the last edition of the Osbournes, which covered really powerfully Ozzy Osbourne coming back to the UK, making a decision to come back to the UK to do the last concert, and then sadly left the building. And we were talking before, I saw it come on, I saw it on the listings, and Paul sort of mentioned it, and I just saying, and I thought, I don't know if I want to watch that, it's a little bit too early. And then as it was, there was nothing else on. And I just thought, I'll give it a go, and if it starts getting a bit melancholy, I'm not going to watch it. But I have to say, I was gripped by it, and I thought, I make amateur films myself, I thought it was very brave what the family decided to do, and what the production company decided good, because it could have gone really wrong. There was a fine line there, and for some people, some reviewers, it did cross over, but for me personally, I thought it was quite touching. And I spoke to Del, and Paul's a musician as well, and I really connected as a fellow musician, and I read into it. He just wanted to come home and have that last gig.
He did, yeah.
In his hometown. And if everyone ever said to you, you've got one more gig left in you, I think you'd always want to go back to your hometown. Yeah. You strive to go and play Hollywood Bowls, Marquees, Madisons and whatever, but actually it's your hometown gigs that you've done. But your thoughts, Paul, was it a little bit too much, or did you find it difficult to watch? Or?
Yeah, I did watch it as well, because I had a day off for work, and so it just like happened, because usually I miss everything because I'm working. Yeah. And I don't have the patience for all the catch-up stuff as well, you know. So I sat down and watched it, and I thought it was gripping, and I thought it was powerful, but I thought it was just so sad.
Yeah,
I actually felt really sad watching it.
But you can say sad
because you were like, you knew, like it confirmed that you knew he was really poorly leading up to the gig. Yeah. You know, you're kind of hoping he wasn't as poorly as you know everyone thought. Yeah. But what that did was, oh right, yeah, he really was sick. Yeah, he was, you know, and that was the big kick. Because like I said, because you know, I brought Bark at the Moon. That was my first. You know, so he was one of my first proper heroes, and I went back to obviously Sabbath and loved all of his solo stuff. You know, kind of to the early 90s and stuff, and he was such a character, wasn't he? And he was just, and he was so like working class as well, wasn't he? You know, he was the real deal. And I found it quite like quite overwhelming and quite sort of, you know what I mean, like quite, because it was just like, it confirmed what we all slightly thought, like realised. He had to get strapped into that chair when he was playing live. You know, and they were surprised he got through the show, and that's what I thought. That's the biggest thing I thought, and again, the biggest thing I thought is that he knew something was up, or him and Sharon did, and it did feel like he wanted to just come home and pass in England and be buried in England and not in like LA underneath the Hollywood sign or whatever. You know.
Dale, what did you make of it?
Yeah, I thought it was very, very moving. Very moving. Yeah.
And I mean, you got the history because you, like you said, you knew him as well, and you knew Sharon.
We want to talk about Sharon.
I'm just a little, you know, I was just like super fanboy, you know. But like, you're probably one of the first people I've met, and I've known you for ages, mate, since I was a kid, that actually knew Ozzy and spent time with him and knew Sharon, which is kind of quite mind-blowing as well.
So is Sharon like the character that we see, or is there another Sharon?
No,
I believe there is another Sharon.
We were talking about this earlier. I mean, when I first met Sharon, this was 1977, 78, and she was working for her dad then, Don Arden. Because she was Sharon Arden.
You have to look over your shoulder when you say Don Arden.
Yeah, she was Sharon Arden then, and it was a completely different person to what I know. I mean, she was. I've mentioned before that she was always, to me, like the very meek, mild, quite shy.
I've heard this.
Little Jewish girl in a Laura Ashley printed dresses, and I think what actually happened was I knew her before she got together with Ozzy. I think she fell in love with Ozzy, and then tragically found out that her dad was ripping her love off, and I think
she had to split off from her dad.
She didn't speak to her dad for about 30 years after
Oh,
that.
really?
Oh, so she chose Ozzy over her dad in the business.
That's right.
Wow,
Yeah,
I didn't know
and
that.
she only went to see her dad again when he got dementia. And she sort of touched base with him again, but I think it changed her, and I think the business as it was in the early 80s anyway was very male dominated, and I think she had to take reluctantly some of the tips out of her dad's book and just to get tough. And it worked. It worked.
Yeah, she did. To be fair, I mean, Sharon, perhaps going on Britain's Got Talent or whatever, people just think that's Sharon Osbourne, but actually, if you were to put, I'll say it now, if you put the top 10 managers of an artist or a band, I think you'd have to put her in there. For what she did, imagine what you're dealing with here.
Yeah.
I mean, he was an absolute basket case. Sorry, Ozzy. I mean, I love him a bit, but to manage him must have been terrible.
Well, he was completely written off, wasn't he?
Yeah, written off musically and everything.
Yeah, he would spend weeks laying on a sofa out of his brains. No one would touch him, and she fell in love with him, but not just fell in love with him, separate to that, she took a washed up rock star that was thrown out of his band for being too, and he went to #1 in America, and he was like one of the first British rock acts to go multi-platinum, wasn't he, in the early 80s? And so she took a washed up guy in a lot of trouble to selling out the biggest stadiums in America, which is quite incredible.
Oh, and then another level with the Osbournes. Let's be honest, like Clarkson, absolute genius, because he's reached everybody. One minute he's talking to a niche motoring people, and then suddenly he opens up Clarkson's Farm, Clarkson's Farm, and everybody loves it. And like what Sharon did with that, and it was really unique at the time, the Bear All, and they played up to cameras. Of course they are, they're making a drama, they knew that, and Ozzy was the best at it, and he still did it in this last one when I'm sure find out his old house was a lunatic asylum, and I mean people giving it grief, going, oh mate, they're making a TV programme, you can't just paint people watching Coronation Street every night, there's got to be some drama in it. They were clever, and that's what Clarkson did. So to make a even higher, really. And the more we're talking about it, the more I'm sort of thinking, well, she's got to be in the top 5 greatest managers.
Because on top of that as well, she devised the Ozfest, and I believe at the time, because it would have been mid-90s, it was the first touring festival.
Yeah,
so
clever.
So she devised, and they had massive success with the Ozfest, and they broke all of those. Sort of new, the new metal scene and the rock bands like your Slipknots of the kind of late 90s. And
she knew how to make money because she actually made that franchise.
Yeah,
that's clever.
You get it doesn't just sit in a field.
Yeah,
we'll take it around and you can buy the. She was clever because it got people to buy into it.
Bought into the Ozzy,
T-shirt. I want
It's always about Ozzy.
Yeah, because he always
wasn't about Rockfest. No, it's Ozzy.
Yeah.
What a brand. What a brand. I mean, if you had a brand and you're looking for someone to come and reinvent your brand, you might want to give Sharon Osbourne a call. Because, fair play to
and they were very clever as well. Like they, again, like you said, that music intuition, that old school, her and her team knew that bands like Korn, Deftones, the bands that, were all on the verge of breaking massive, and they put them all on the festival. Every one of those bands that was on the Ozfest originally went on to become multi-platinum, legend. All right, maybe not our thing, but like I said, Slipknot were one of the biggest metal bands in the, and they got their first break on Ozfest.
Okay, let's wrap Ozzy up and Sharon. But well done, Sharon, and I think well done to the production company, and well done to the BBC for being brave enough to put it out, because you don't have to watch these things, you can watch something else,
especially these days.
And I was glad it was on BBC myself, as in thought it was the right channel, and I bet that was Sharon Osbourne. They could have sold that to anyone. Apple
could have made loads of money off Netflix.
We're going home, and what's home? BBC. So if you haven't watched it, you got to be in the right mood for it. but give it a go.
Be prepared.
Be prepared.
Be prepared.
It will touch you.
Yeah.
It might touch you enough to turn it off, but it might touch you. So give it a go. Right, Paul, here we go. Like, for the listener, just to be absolutely clear, Paul runs, again, a really important venue because they are becoming really important in this country. We're losing venues week by week, month by month, year by year. Somehow the Crawford is still there, a great traditional, we're talking about my generation, this podcast, and it's a kind of venue that we went to as young people.
Yeah, we get that
and I'm so glad there is still a venue like that, because and it worries me, because we've got some other lovely venues in Milton Keynes, and I'll mention them, Stables, MK11, but they're not the kind of venues that I was going to when I was 16, 15, 14, 16, 20. But the Crawford is, hence why I feel it's so important. But how demanding is it, Paul, to keep it going at the moment?
Beyond demanding, and I must sort of like Jason Hall, who owns it, and Max, effectively they're my bosses, and Jason would do all the final bookings and stuff, so effectively he'll sort of book it and I'll run it, the show, and then I advise and help out, and I do the local night. So you've got to mention Jason. I didn't
mean it like that.
You know what I mean, because like and so we're a really good team, and it absolutely is, like, I'm not even exaggerating. It's roll up your sleeves and fight, and that's basically like my expertise now. I would say, because I've been doing it a long time, and I obviously I look after the guys and advise, and is my expertise is probably more. I just knew how to fight and be resilient.
Yeah. And
I'm now taking that, and used to laugh and joke about it back in the day, but now, like I sit and talk to Jason and Max, and like some weeks the worry on their face is unbelievable, and it just makes me want to go out and just try and fight harder and pack the gigs.
But you still enjoy it, Paul? I mean, you you started around about the early 90s at the Pitz. Perhaps we'll get onto that, but we have been talking a lot. But you do.
I do. I mean, I think what people don't realise as well, guys, is that I left the Pitz in 2010 because I knew it was going to go down.
Yeah.
And so I jumped ship, and I knew, how badly it was, like they were running it. But like, I never actually planned to stay in Milton Keynes. I was a super career guy. I never had kids and stuff because I wanted to go to the very top, and my dream was to be putting on gigs at the Bowl and become that Rod Small, the big guy. And I was on my way, and I was getting, about time when you gave me some work as well. I was putting in CVs, and that's when the guys were splitting off from Live Nation to set up Kilimanjaro, and all of that. Some of my friends that I started out with, they're at the top doing Ed Sheeran and stuff like that. I wanted to go to the top, and I got all the chances. And classic thing is when I went for the meetings, and when I went there, I realised I couldn't do it. I couldn't be charging your kids or your friends' kids 500 quid to go and see Oasis, and I knew that was happening 7 or 8 years ago, because they were planning it, and I basically couldn't do it. I loved music so much, and it really did change my life, and I just couldn't sell it out. So I chose to stay independent, and then I was, so I was kind of doing shows, hustling, and then I went to work at the Crawford to bring my advice. So I love it, because I think it's important, if you're going to work in music, you got to fight for music.
Are you hearing anything in the industry, your industry?
Yeah.
We spoke about it, and I'll bring Del in here. We both agreed that, I would definitely vote for scrapping business rates for live music venues, and to be honest, quite a number of community-based. It's like a community tax. If you can qualify, I'm talking even just toddlers and mums and dads groups, or anything that's to do with the community, and you are they should be excluded from business rates, because they spend millions of pounds on mental health issues and people health issues and loneliness issues, and we've mentioned this, but You agree, Del, don't you? I mean, I think we're reaching a point where something's got to change. We mentioned the France tax.
Well, most. I was going to say, yeah, we talked about this before. A lot of governments in Europe, they sponsor the arts in some way, shape, or form. And the ironic thing is, if you look at the size of Great Britain on a globe, how small we are, but how influential we've been in the arts and music. And up until recent years, Great Britain's economy, one of the big things was the music and the arts.
It still is, isn't it, with Adele and stuff like that?
But they don't put anything in. They like to take it out.
Yeah, it's one of the things that really hurts venues, and it's a controversial issue, and you probably know about it a little bit, is PRS, because PRS now you have to pay a yearly rate, and they have the power to effectively block your license if you don't, and you're like, if a band wants to do a cover, then that's down to the band. To me, they should be paying a bit out of their fee. Why should we be being charged thousands of pounds a year? That really hurts us. The events license is obviously going up all the time.
Fundamentals
business rate. I think last time I spoke to Jason or Max, the heat, gas and electric bill for the Crawford was like, it had doubled to like two and a half grand a month or something.
Rent.
It's about £95 in electric and that, just to switch on all the PA and the lights. But it's just like that. It's just stacking up, and then you can only charge so much for a ticket because people can't, because we're so close to London. What I've always battled with is people are like, oh, why are you charging that, Paul? That's London prices. You shouldn't be charging that at a local club, and people will generally protest and not turn up. So you're like limited to what you can charge a ticket, and then obviously the beers are a little bit more expensive, because it's a venue, and then you're getting pressured all the time to stick extra 10p on that and 5p on that. But if you put it too much, people won't come. So there's like, that's what I mean by how demanding it is.
I think you're giving the listener a really good idea on how demanding it is. Because the other thing you got to add there is that, rightly or wrongly, it might be commendable that younger generation are not drinking the quantities what me and you did back in the day as well. So that makes it even, it used to be, I did loads of gigs with Horror and different bands where they were quite happy for us to take the door because we brought a good crowd in.
Yeah.
So they took the beer.
Yeah.
Whereas now they have to have some of the door really to pay. There was never any security back in the day. Your roadie helped you out if anyone got a bit loud.
There's a drink and drive thing as well.
Yeah, you drink. Yeah. I mean, I get that. I get it. I think it might be a good thing for the country that everyone's not getting. When I was at the Shook's Wine Bar, what people were drinking frightened the life out of me. I class myself as a drink. So I think it had reached a bit of a silly point, and I think that it's come back a little bit. So, all I'm trying to say to listeners is this, and I was talking with Chris Kemp, safety barriers, and I say health and safety, security guards, all this kind of thing. It's making it so difficult, and I'm pretty sure the government are aware of the importance of the music and arts, what they pay in tax and what they bring into the country. But I just think no one's really raising it at a level which can affect change, and it's a shame, really.
Yeah, but and you can get really deep into politics as well, and like how it's gone, and kind of almost like the classism as well of everything, isn't it? Because like going to a gig, going to see a band, it's like what we do, in it. But the problem is with some of the government now, they want to fund the theatres and the top, like they don't see, it's almost like they don't.
No, it's brushing it under the carpet.
Yeah, you know what I mean. And you could get into this big socialist kind of them and us, but that's what it feels like. It feels like what we do.
But there are some good people out there. Youngblood.
Yeah.
Talk to me about Youngblood, because he came to the Crawford and he's he's actually taking it on board, hasn't he?
Incredible. Yeah, that's a big thing. I would say there is funding out there, but it's hard for people like us to get it. Yeah. Because it goes to like galleries and and
yes. Well, they have professional people employed to secure grants.
Yeah, and we're just
you can't do that.
Yeah, you know, and,
they don't just suddenly get these grants.
So it's not a level playing field at all, and you know that should really change, shouldn't it, locally? Yeah. But so Youngblood, he's been knocking around for a few years, and he just kind of took off on social media a few years ago, because I think he was like some pop punk lad before, but he's become like globally like an absolute hero on social media for all the young people who, you know, are a little bit like don't quite fit in, and outsiders, and you know, like that. He's like their guru, so he's become this huge figurehead for all the teenagers that are a little bit lost and stuff, you know. And so he's built his crowd, built his market, and basically he realised that stuff was getting so expensive and festivals getting so expensive. He wanted to do a day festival and prove to people you could do an affordable festival. And I think all of the big promoters, everyone was like, no. He got shut down every step of the way, and he stuck to his guns. And he's done 2 Youngblood festivals at the Bowl. Yeah. I think he licensed it for like 30,000, you know, like half. Yeah. And he's packed both of them out.
But he's putting some money back into it.
And it's all off of his own back, all off of his own money. He just hopes he covers costs. And I think he's set it up as well, like, you know, he does things like he has like an area where if you're coming to the festival on your own, you can go to that and meet friends. And so he's got it really worked out really well, and it's all for the young people that go to his festivals that maybe have never been to a festival before, and he's done all of that with his management off of his own back. So even if you can't stand his music, or you know, it's not your thing at all, he's probably one of the most important music people, because he's gone against the grain, you know. And a lot of bands that should know better, who pretend that they're righteous and a bit punk rock and stuff, keep their mouth shut and take the money. He's gone and done that all on his own.
I mean, let's hope there's hope, and I do hope, because I say it'd be a major blow, but it's happening all over the country, and I just hope it doesn't happen at Wolverton. So if you are listening locally now, do check out, go on the website and have a look what's on. There's some very interesting bands that come down there, and I hope it continues, Paul. We're going to talk again. We'll get you back in at some point, so we've got loads more to talk about. But listeners have to have a life. Del's just shot off, so he's saying his goodbye. He's not shot off ever. I don't know where he's gone, actually. I think he had a phone call, but Life of a Life podcast. But thanks to Ricky, our wonderful producer, and hopefully we'll be back soon talking about our generation.